I often wonder why it is that people can spend so much time on a treasure hunt, like the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt or John Collins Black. There's Treasure Inside treasure hunt, whenever their chances of success are so incredibly low. I mean, think about the fact that it's a difficult treasure hunt and people are searching for a very long time and they're not finding anything. And for many active treasure hunts, treasure hunts that started in the 80s, and there are only 3 of 12 that have been discovered. And yet, people spend a lot of time and they keep persisting. And there are many, many others, very, very smart people who are devoting an immense amount of time and energy and effort to trying to find these treasures. So when you really think about it, what are your chances of success? And why do we keep doing this? Well, I'd like to suggest, I'll give you a couple reasons why I think it happens, but even more so, I'm going to suggest some reasons why I think it's good that it happens. Now, some might suggest that, well, this treasure hunt obsession, it's just like gambling. You're buying a lottery ticket, you spend $5 on a ticket with the hope of winning millions of dollars, and that's really not good for anyone. It's just wishful thinking and idealistic and that sort of thing. And while there may be an element to that, that's certainly possible, and people may have greater confidence than their skills or abilities warrant at times, and I'm sure that's true for me as well on any number of fronts. The reality is that I still think there's something different and good about this. Because think about it, when you spend money on a lottery ticket, there's no skill, there's no time, there's no effort. You're putting a small $5 investment with the hope of getting millions of dollars, but it's relatively low risk and it's not taking an immense amount of your time, energy, effort, or anything else like that. But a treasure hunt is different. It requires work. It requires effort. You have to think. You have to get out there and look and test your theories. And you have to persist through being wrong over and over and over and over again. And I actually think there's something really, really neat about that. Now, some treasure hunts are designed so that they're clue chains. So you get a clue, and once you solve that, it reveals a second clue, and it resolves, then you get another clue. And so there's a little bit of a feedback system. It's not immediate gratification like just swiping through social media, but you do get a feedback system so you know if you're on the right track along the way. But other treasure hunts, like the John Collins Black, there's Treasure Inside, or the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, or some of the others, there really aren't any evident signs that you're on the right track, where you're getting feedback external to yourself. Now, you may see a series of clues and you see them coming together in a way that makes sense. And so that's affirming to you because it gives you a sense that you're on the right track. But you don't actually know for sure. You're still having to persist through uncertainty and ambiguity, and you're having to test theories over and over again. And when people talk about having a solve, it doesn't mean that they actually have a solution. In fact, if you use even simple math, like from game theory, you might think that you're 90% certain that it's in a particular state, and then 50% certain it's in a particular part of the state, and then 50% certain that it's in a particular park, and then maybe you're 20% certain it's in another area. You actually add that up statistically, and it's a pretty low percentage chance, but you try it anyway. You test it out, and there's this kind of trial and error, and you're trying to make educated guesses, do research, and explore it. Now, here's what I'm going to say, though. This is why I think it's actually really good in a society to have people do this, to have people use this as a pastime. I mean, we watch movies, we listen to music, we play games, we watch sports. There are lots of leisure activities that people do. Sometimes people build things. So where does a treasure hunt fit? And I actually think it can teach some great virtues, and it cultivates something in us that can be used for good. It can certainly be used for ill and abuse. There are people that can get so obsessed with a treasure hunt that they sacrifice necessary time with family and friends and work and their own personal care and sleep and their spiritual life and other things like that. And of course, that can be harmful if you're doing it in some kind of addictive way. But it can also be a valuable leisurely activity and pastime. And and project for someone. And here's why. Because noble quests with a low chance of success are important. Think about the scientific researcher who decides to devote the next 30 years of her life to exploring some kind of series of questions that have a chance of maybe finding a cure for an illness that people have been struggling with for a very, very long time. Or scientists who or mathematicians who try to solve a particular problem that they're navigating and trying to come up with this theory to explain an unexplained phenomenon. And they're going to spend a ton of time on this. And at the end, it actually may lead to nothing. They could spend decades and still come up with nothing. Now, others may build upon it in the future, and it could be useful or beneficial, but there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of kind of risking your time and energy and effort and your life's work with a chance of success. Maybe a 1 out of 1,000 chance, 1/10 of 1% chance, or something like that. And yet, those kinds of efforts pay off and benefit people. Sometimes they don't. And along the way, it can be really good, noble work that's not just self-centered. It can benefit other people also. And I would say that that's something that can be cultivated in a treasure hunt-like experience. You're not getting the immediate gratification all the time. And yes, you have this idea of a dream of a treasure at the end, but how you use it is up to you. People could use it for good or ill. They could use it and be incredibly generous, or they could just use it all for themselves, or they could use it to better their family, which is a noble cause as well, and to care for their family's needs. And I think that makes treasure hunts a valuable part of modern leisure time. They cultivate a kind of virtue and doggedness and pursuit of something valuable without having the guarantee that you'll get it. And I think that's pretty good for people.